Respect Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to Manjushri for wisdom, courage. Homage to kind root lineage masters. The profound and subtle is difficult to encounter in millennia. Now I see, hear, and receive it. May I understand the true meaning of the Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings in the boundless world, give rise to the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta. Next, let us once again continue to thoughtfully and carefully study together the teachings of the preliminary practices of the Great Perfection. Previously, we have already discussed the comparison between the number of humans and the number of other sentient beings, and concluded that obtaining a human body is extremely rare. Now we will elaborate on this principle. Such a precious human rebirth with freedoms and advantages is not simply a matter of chance or luck, but rather something that involves more than just random events or unpredictable outcomes, but rather the result of accumulating the two types of merit over countless lifetimes and eons. The great wise master Acharya Chandragomin said, "Attaining a human body with freedoms and advantages is not accomplished through mere strength alone, but is rather the result of accumulated merit, the positive merit that is built up over time." Because the precious human body, which is endowed with freedoms and advantages, as we have so thoroughly and carefully described earlier on, is not something that arises for no reason, nor is it a matter of mere chance. It's not like rain falling from the sky or grass growing on the ground, which are simply the result of occasional conditions coming together, nor is it something that is gained by luck. So, under what kind of conditions, generally speaking, is it obtained? As explained in the Preliminary Practices Memorandum, it is the case that for us to obtain a human body, we must have upheld pure precepts over a long period of time, over many years, and with great care, and generated many wholesome and virtuous intentions, such as giving, and made truly extraordinary and noble aspirations, among other remarkable and noteworthy things. Only after accumulating many such exceptional virtuous causes and conditions can we obtain, in this life, a human body that is truly guided by a qualified spiritual teacher and able to practice the Dharma. Such a truly rare and precious human existence is not so easily attained for most people. Indeed, as stated in the Buddhist scriptures, there are 4 kinds of rarity. A human body is rare. We have it. The Dharma is rare. We have it. Moreover, it is very difficult to give rise to faith in the Dharma, but we have already developed such faith. And it is also very rare for bodhicitta to arise in our continuum, yet this too has arisen. So these four kinds of rarity, many of our fellow practitioners here today truly, genuinely, and sincerely, in previous lives, over countless eons, accumulated the merit of wisdom and the merit of virtue, and in this very life have truly obtained such extraordinary and rare causes and conditions. Some people might earn a significant amount of money, perhaps after working hard for many years, and then think to themselves, my good fortune is truly, honestly, really quite wonderful. I'm really so happy. I suddenly made such a large amount of money today. They become absolutely very confident in themselves. But in reality, no matter how much wealth you accumulate over the course of your life, ultimately, it can only solve some temporary interests. Whereas the value of obtaining a human body truly and significantly far surpasses by a considerable margin the former, indeed, without question. Therefore, every practitioner present here should also take time to reflect deeply within your own mind, considering your thoughts. For this is the preliminary practice of contemplating the rarity of human birth. Spiritual practice doesn't always mean you have to close your eyes or try to manifest some kind of light or vision in front of you. It's not really like that. What you must do is repeatedly, over and over again, contemplate this fundamental principle, observe and reflect on it again and again until eventually, in your own heart, it's neither genuinely pretended nor in any way forced at all, but a natural feeling, quite understandably, does indeed certainly arise. Obtaining a human body is not easy. Especially a human body that can study the Dharma Sukha life is not easy to obtain. And if I have already obtained it today, how fortunate I am, how exceptionally rare and truly hard-won it is in this world after all. When such a thought naturally arises in your heart, it means you have truly gained some valuable insight into the rarity of human life. I think there's really nothing difficult to understand about this point. Some Dharma friends think, I spent a long time contemplating this after getting up in the morning, but maybe because my negative karma is so heavy or something, I just couldn't feel it. They feel very distressed and end up just going back to sleep. But actually, there's nothing to be distressed about. Because when you repeatedly contemplate and reflect on these principles, I think no matter how dull you really are, or how many distracting thoughts arise at any given moment. In fact, you can still contemplate them. All of the above principles are in accordance with truth. So if you keep on reading and reflecting deeply on them time and time again, over and over again, there's nothing you can't understand, nor is there any feeling you can't generate in your heart. That's why the Sakya school's remarkable and highly respected master Chandrakirti, a renowned figure in Tibetan Buddhism, he also said at the time that attaining a human life like ours, where we can practice the Dharma as above, a life free from 8 unfavorable conditions and possessing 10 perfections, it's not that we are powerful, it's simply because we are awesome. Nor is it because we have status, wealth, or fame in this life. It is not necessarily due to such reasons that we have obtained this. Some leaders in the world today have completely got positions just buying them more connections, or by using other means, such as alternative methods, but it is not like that at all. The only reason, indeed the primary reason we have this human life is because, in fact, in our innumerable and countless past lives, we accumulated merit and performed virtuous deeds which allowed us to obtain it. So you should not think that becoming ordained in this life is just a coincidence. It is not simply because of your family circumstances then, or a momentary feeling of renunciation you had. It may seem like a chance occurrence, but in reality it is the result of a very wondrous set of causes and conditions. These causes and conditions are closely connected to our own mental continuum. Thus, for those who believe in karma and causality, many things that happen in this life can also be said to arise from causes and conditions. Some people say that things are predestined, that fate cannot be changed. But when we use Buddhist texts like the Abhidhammakosha and certain logical perspectives to explain these matters, you have to admit the cause and effect. If you truly understand the very detailed and profound nature of cause and effect regarding such causal relationship, then everything we do now has its causes and its results. Once you understand this principle, we must consider the issue of life and death. In the long cycle of samsara in the future, you have no choice but to think about it. Anyone with wisdom will be concerned about this. Therefore, we should understand that, fundamentally speaking, in essence, it is important to remember that the value of having obtained a precious human body at this very moment should not be wasted, neglected, or treated carelessly in any way. One has gained a human body for those who, lacking the light of true Dharma, commit all kinds of evil deeds. They may even be more degenerate than beings in the lower realms. Some people indeed appear on the surface to have obtained a human body, but for various reasons, as you probably know, they have not encountered the radiant light of the precious Dharma. Because of this, they commit killing, stealing, sexual misdeeds, lying, and the 10 unwholesome deeds. They commit every kind of horrific, terrible, evil deed imaginable in the world, ensuring that they leave nothing undone. Sometimes, when we look at a human being, they truly seem even more utterly degenerate and frightening, much more so than animals. Why is that? Because if you, for example, become an animal, animals are generally more ignorant by nature, and their capacity for harmful actions is still limited. But humans, on the surface, are very clever in certain action. They can create all kinds of things, like nuclear weapons, atomic bombs, and so on, various kinds of killing devices, capable of absolutely and completely annihilating all of humanity without exception, as well as every single living being on Earth. So sometimes, when we actually see with our very own eyes just how some people are forced to live their daily lives, it is, quite honestly, truly and deeply terrifying. Some people, although they don't harm all living beings on such a large scale, still, indeed, within a smaller scope, they develop very bad habits from a young age, such as procrastination or carelessness. Every day they eat chicken and kill fish, constantly taking the precious lives of many sentient beings simply to sustain and maintain their own flesh and body. Such negative karma is something that even many animals do not commit. Yaks in the mountains just eat grass, and goats also eat grass and drink water. Their way of life, you could say, is actually quite relatively pure. In many ways it remains unspoiled and simple. Because yaks and goats are both vegetarians, they don't eat meat. It is truly frightening to see the way some people live, especially when their choices seem reckless or show little concern for their own safety or the well-being of others. Witnessing such behavior can be deeply... When it comes to creating negative karma, they have all sorts of abilities, showing a remarkable knack for finding different ways to bring about harmful outcomes. Their skills in... But when it comes to actually doing good deeds, they simply have no real capability at all. They don't even believe in the 3 jewels. Not even bowing lighting a lamp or burning incense, even such tiny acts of merit or good fortune, or the conditions for them, are completely absent in their entire lives. Some people are just like this. There are a great number of such people around us in our daily lives. For these people, we don't even need to visualize at all. In fact, you can just simply take a look with your own eyes. Sometimes I think, whether it's many lay practitioners or some Dharma friends, you don't necessarily have to contemplate the so-called rarity of human rebirth while sitting indoors. Out in the world, through what you see and hear among your colleagues around you, from their actions and behavior, you can easily tell, you can clearly see whether some people actually have any real value or not. Some individuals, in fact, truly have no value at all. So it is also mentioned here, just as the Venerable Milarepa once said to the hunter, Lord Vajra, the Buddha taught that a life of leisure and opportunity is precious, hard to obtain. But when you see someone like you start to feel that human life is not really all that precious or rare. At that time, perhaps you have also read Milarepa's detailed and inspiring biography, a story that has deeply touched many hearts. Milarepa was in a remote and quiet place right on the border between Tibet and Nepal for a while, in a mountain called Nyanguda. While he was there, one day he suddenly heard the sound of gunshots and the frenzied barking of hunting dogs outside. After a while, a deer came by. It seemed to be black in color. Extremely frightened, trembling with fear, filled with panic and unease. Slowly, it came to the entrance of his lonely, dark cave, quietly seeking safe refuge with him. At that very moment, the Venerable One saw its condition and, feeling a profound surge of deep compassion, was deeply moved. He sang a gentle song, softly to it, letting the melody linger. After a little while, as time slowly passed by, the deer's emotional state of mind gradually, bit by bit, calmed down. Eventually, a little later, the red female dog, the very same one that had been chasing the deer earlier, finally appeared, also came, charging in with a sudden, forceful burst of energy, moving forward in an extremely aggressive and determined manner, filled with intense, sudden anger and hatred, and appeared before him. At that moment, Milarepa also experienced a profound and heartfelt compassion for the female dog. He sang a song to her as well, and after finishing the song, its anger and the doe's fear, which had been so intense just now, suddenly and completely disappeared. The gentle deer seemed to lean closely against Milarepa's left side, while the faithful female dog was quietly on his right. After a while, a hunter also appeared, looking extremely angry and fierce. Carrying a hunting rifle in his hands and a set of bows and arrows slung over his shoulder, he walked forward with steady, deliberate steps, and when the hunter observed the yogi, who was sitting quietly and serenely, with the deer on one side and the female dog on the other side, he hesitated for a brief moment. He felt it was really very extremely unusual. He thought that this yogi might be using magic to control the animals. He immediately, and without any hesitation, very deliberately and swiftly shot an arrow at the yogi, who stood calmly, but unfortunately, he missed his intended target. He found this to be quite strange, really quite strange. At this moment, the Venerable Milarepa, at that time, sang him another spiritual song. In the song, there was this message. The Buddha said that obtaining a human body is extremely rare. For people like you, getting a human body is not that difficult. We can also see that some hunters, fishermen, and butchers, these people are truly, truly pitiful, I must say. Their whole lives are, in fact, entirely spent committing negative karma. After he finished singing, the hunter, who had been listening with great attention, truly felt that this yogi was quite exceptional and extraordinary in every possible way. But he still wondered exactly how he managed to survive to himself. He took a look at his cave. It turned out inside the cave there were only wild grass, roots, and nettles. Other than that, there was no food or utensils of any kind whatsoever. In the end, he developed truly remarkable faith. He immediately presented all of his finely crafted bows, sharp arrows, and freshly caught game to the Venerable One. He earnestly and humbly begged the Venerable One to kindly accept him as both a devoted servant and a faithful disciple. The Venerable One also sang some songs to him and expounded some Buddhist teachings. But the hunter had a special request that sincerely wanted to go back home, just for a brief period of time, to take care of some very important personal matters. Perhaps it was to handle divorce procedures, and then he asked to return. At that time, the Venerable did not agree and asked him to stay here. Later, looking back in history, the hunter Gompo Dorje became an exceptionally, truly, incredibly remarkable, great, accomplished master, and both the female dog and the fawn were, indeed, at last completely freed from the suffering of samsara. There are many, many more wonderful, fascinating, and inspiring stories, all of which are found within the remarkable and extraordinary biography of Milarepa. Indeed, many Dharma friends who are present with us here at this moment. If you haven't read it before, as I mentioned, I have also encouraged you to read it yourselves, because Milarepa, the legendary and highly venerated yogi in the history of Tibetan Buddhism, was truly an extraordinary practitioner in every sense of the word. Whether it's his spiritual songs or his Vajra teachings, these individuals offer extremely profound and valuable insights, which have been carefully passed down and continue to provide significant guidance and inspiration to later generations. That includes myself as well. I have great faith in the biography of Milarepa, as it is a book that has profoundly influenced my perspective. And I remember back when I was really still in middle school, which was more than 20 years ago now, at that time I once fell ill. In our village there was a lama who was well known among the people, and I often found myself sitting quietly, listening carefully to the words and teachings he shared with us. Every evening he would read to us. It probably took us more than 10 days to finish listening to the whole thing. After we finished, things weren't as they are now. My memory was quite good, in fact rather reliable, and I could recount many of the stories from earlier days, which I remembered well. Later, when I was in middle school, there was a classmate named Sarang Jarang, who was also in our class at that time, you remember, right? One time, we were by the banks of the Zongta River, and in the summer, the place was full of flowers. We first washed our feet by the clear, cool river, then sat for a while on the soft green grass, enjoying the calm atmosphere. After that, I started telling him the biography of Milarepa and some other stories. As I was telling the heartfelt stories, he gradually started to cry, and tears just flowed gently down his face, one after another. I kept telling stories for about the whole afternoon, just talking and sharing them with my friends. When I ran into him last year, he still clearly remembered some of those stories from our childhood. Although his grades weren't very good and he didn't get into school later, he still clearly remembered some of those old stories from the past. And when he finally saw me, he said, "When we were in middle school, back then, you actually shared and discussed some Dharma with me." The impression that it left on me is still, even now, truly very deep and lasting. Indeed, at that time, I truly had a great deal of faith in the Dharma deep in my heart. Actually, even a small story can sometimes truly bring about a huge significant change in a person's life in a very positive way, including back when we were compiling Waves of Wisdom C, there were some university students who, after reading Milarepa's biography and collection of songs of realization, began to gain a new profound and deeper understanding of life itself and its meaning, and then ultimately chose to follow the monastic path. This kind of phenomenon is quite common. So as I see it, for many of the fellow Dharma friends who are currently present here, it is truly, truly indeed the same. Now that we have both the time and the opportunity before us, it is important that we take a moment to truly contemplate and reflect on the preciousness and unique value of human life. At present, it is indeed rare to obtain a human body, and very few people understand this principle. Moreover, if we look at the world, there are many people who do not really act like true human beings. It may seem so, but if we tell them to their face that they are not acting like humans, they would definitely be unhappy. But in reality, they do not possess the truly precious human body. When we talk about today's situation on this planet, I sometimes feel the human population keeps increasing. Back around 1950, at that time, during that particular period, the total human population worldwide was 2.5 billion. And then over the next few decades, in nearly just over 50 years, over the course of time, it expanded tremendously, significantly, and remarkably, growing at an extraordinary pace. Now there are more than 6 billion people, according to some anthropologists' statistics. In a few more decades, very soon, the human population will reach over 10 billion. When it surpasses 10 billion, this planet will not be able to bear it. This includes our resource issues, social issues, human issues, economic issues, and political issues. Many, many conflicts and contradictions will inevitably arise throughout our daily life and in the reality we experience. As a result, the living environment for all of humanity, for people everywhere, will become extremely, extremely cramped and crowded, almost unbearably so. But what is the reason for this? It's not that more and more people are necessarily actively and consciously practicing virtuous deeds or deliberately following the path of goodness. It's not as if this brings a kind of radiance to the whole world. It's really not like that at all. Sentient beings are creating more and more negative karma, even though on the surface they appear human. In reality, those who truly practice virtuous deeds or believe in cause and effect are as rare as the morning stars. Truly, almost none of them exist at all. Because of this, as you can clearly see for yourself, our entire situation indeed, when some scholars thoughtfully and carefully look at the world around them, in their minds and in their hearts, and see the future of humanity, is currently facing all kinds of various unexpected and challenging problems and numerous significant difficulties. Of course, as Buddhists, we also have to deeply reflect on these issues. Why are sentient beings today so fond of creating negative karma? Moreover, compared to people in ancient times, their methods, one could say, are many times more advanced now. And whether it's human ethics and morality as a whole or mental health, the means of education in these particular areas are gradually becoming weaker and weaker. Not quite as good as the ancients. So in today's world, on the surface, it seems that science and technology are developing at a truly remarkable and incredible rapid pace, at least on the surface. Things appear to be progressing and advancing quickly, and humanity is constantly advancing and progressing and so on. Many people use many beautiful words to describe this, but as we can see, human ethics and people's hearts are, it seems, deteriorating and declining day by day. As a result, the space for humanity to survive on Earth as we know it is becoming increasingly uncertain. Therefore, we should not treat the principles regarding the rarity of human life the way people all around the world see it now, currently. Nowadays, people think life is joyful and we pursue enjoyment. But these words are actually a kind of lie and also one-sided temptations meant to mislead us. When we lack wisdom and true insight, easy to believe what others say. However, we are not complete pessimists either. It's not that we can't tell truth from falsehood, black from white in this world. That's not the case. If there really is a truly bright spot, we can also recognize it. Because the wisdom of Buddhism surpasses other forms of knowledge, it is extremely keen and perceptive. The conclusions of wisdom are ones people must acknowledge, both rationally and as truth. Therefore, we should also realize here that human life is indeed hard to come by. That is why it is said that nothing is more prone to falling into lower realms than human existence. So we must understand that if a person commits negative actions, the human body is more likely than beings in lower realms to suffer. The negative karma created in a human lifetime can lead to lasting harm for countless eons. Throughout many lives and kalpas, one may end up suffering in hell. For example, if someone becomes a powerful leader and kills many people, or mobilizes the military, causing widespread war and chaos across the world, or destroys the Dharma, etc., if one commits such actions, the results are unimaginable. In the history of the Han regions, there was the destruction of Buddhism by the 3 Wu and 1 Zong emperors. There were also several emperors who, it must be said, were truly terrifying. Among the 3 Wu, the first was notably Emperor Tai Wu of Northern Wei. He was truly extremely brutal. At that particular time, all of the monks, without exception, were tragically buried alive in deep, dark pits. There were also beheadings. Everyone was wiped out during that period. Basically, you couldn't see a single monk anywhere in the world at that time. It was truly terrifying. Later, during the reign of Emperor Wu of Northern Zhou, Buddhism was also destroyed in a horrifying manner. According to some historical records, it is estimated that more than 40,000 temples were destroyed during that period. Some of them were eventually repurposed as secular dwellings. Moreover, over 3 million monks were all forced to return to lay life, every single one of them. It became a complete disaster of utter and total annihilation. This was exactly what notably and historically occurred during the reign of Emperor Wu of Northern Zhou, that is, in the period known as the reign of Emperor Wu. Later, during the reign of Emperor Wu of Tang, Buddhism also suffered tremendous damage at that time. It was truly terrifying. Some historical accounts from that time state that among the larger and medium-sized temples, about 400-600 were completely destroyed. For the smaller temples, over 40,000 were demolished. Moreover, 260 Zero monks were forced to return to lay life. It was truly frightening. Later, during the later Zhou dynasty, the situation was also quite dire. Although not all monks were forced to disrobe at that specific point in time, it still caused significant and lasting damage, especially to the surrounding area. These few dynasties were basically similar to Langdama's persecution of Buddhism in Tibet. Sometimes I think in a person's lifetime, at that particular time, the emperor began to issue imperial orders, just like Emperor Wu of the Tang dynasty. Among 20 Tang emperors, he alone didn't believe in Buddhism. During his 6-year reign, he ordered that all monks must, without exception, return to lay life. He just couldn't stand it. So the crimes committed by one person can be truly terrifying. Then science wasn't as advanced, but if it had been, he might have been responsible for causing destruction that impacted the lives of many monks, not just in one place, but in different parts of the world as well, bringing hardship to monastic communities everywhere. Of course, from some historical analysis perspectives, it is said that the three Wu were closely associated with Taoism, while the Wanzong was specifically linked to Confucianism. Such theories exist. But some say that at that time there were simply too many monks. This also posed certain risks to society. Some monks did not pay taxes or serve in the military at all. Later on, the state also regarded Buddhism as a new culture that had come from India. This led to conflicts with native religions of the Han people. Based on this kind of disapproval, and then considering the lifestyles of some monks, especially since some of them at the time may have been wasteful, some monks even started farming the land, buying up large estates like landlords. This ended up putting pressure on society. In the end, it was inevitable. There are such explanations. I've certainly come across this viewpoint before. During the Song dynasty, there was a well-known Chan Buddhist master named Zongzi, who, in the historical context of that era, also expressed this important idea. He said, "Heaven gave rise to the three Wu disasters that plagued our sect. Monks returned home and the pagodas and temples were left empty." What he meant was that at the time, in his own perspective, in fact, it seemed as if the three Emperor Wu manifested themselves from the heavens. They inflicted historical destruction on our religion. Even the disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha wanted to return home. All the temples and pagodas had already been destroyed. This described the utter devastation of that time. But what was the reason for this? He also explained further, saying it was because in the days of prosperity, people could not maintain a pure and simple spirit. In other words, the reason was that, specifically speaking, during that particular period of time, Buddhism was held in the highest esteem and most revered. But at that particular time, they simply could not practice thrift or maintain a pure and simple monastic tradition. It was for this reason that, in the end, Buddhism ended up like this. Some of the words spoken by these Chan masters are things that we as later generations may have to consider deeply. Why is that? Because nowadays there are some monks and practitioners do indeed live very simply and humbly, are truly content with very little, and genuinely and sincerely practice the true Dharma. This is definitely something we should acknowledge. But there are also some who only bring pressure to society, indulging in laziness and gluttony without making any contribution to society or to Buddhism. Whether it's about money, finances, or society, one should always strive to be clear and honest with oneself. If your mind is pure, whether you recite the Buddha's name or practice virtuous deeds, I believe it benefits everyone, the nation, and society. If you haven't accomplished genuine things, but make aspirations with a pure mind, it brings an invisible, genuine sense of joy and happiness to others. And this is beyond doubt. However, if this is not the case and one is extremely greedy, some don't follow the Dharma in precepts or behavior. And if monastics or Buddhists ever become excessive and lack self-restraint, it truly does bring some pressure to society. Therefore, while we understand how rare it is to obtain a human body, it is also necessary for everyone to review some aspects of history. We should pay attention to some current situations with the various causes and specific conditions that over time ultimately led to the eventual downfall and destruction of Buddhism in history. So here, as just explained, the actions of a person who commits truly great and heinous evil can, without a doubt, be said to prevent them from ever truly gaining liberation or freedom from the suffering of the lower realms for countless, immeasurable eons. Therefore, now that we have obtained such a human body, deciding how we should act in any situation is a personal responsibility, and it is something that each of us must carefully consider and determine for ourselves based on our own values and beliefs. Now, whether we do good or truly commit evil, the power is in our own hands. At the present moment, as human beings, we truly and genuinely hold this incredible and remarkable power in our very own hands, and this is something we must never take for granted. Some people say, "Oh, I have no choice." They often feel controlled by their families, by their workplaces, or even pulled by their karma. But in fact, as humans in this world, we still possess freedom. Compared to some other sentient beings, for example, if you ask some animals in this world to practice virtuous deeds, they simply cannot. But for us humans, as long as our faith allows, or if faith is strengthened, many external social relationships and family ties should each be faced in different ways by different people. That's how I see it. The issue is we lack strength. The true key to practicing virtuous deeds is in our own hands. There is an article called "Hold the Key to Your Own Happiness." It explains that we should be the true masters of our own emotions in our lives. We really shouldn't expect or hope that others will bring us happiness or joy. Instead, we should share the happiness and joy that we possess with others. The main argument is this: what is said makes sense. Indeed, the key to a person's future happiness should truly be held in each individual's own hands. But the crucial point is what kind of direction you actually choose for yourself. If you have unwavering faith in the law of cause and effect throughout the cycle of samsara, you would never knowingly jump into an abyss with your eyes wide open. You simply wouldn't. However, maybe due to our environment or past life karma, we often remain unsure about the sufferings of the lower realms in samsara. As a result, there are often, and in fact sometimes, mistakes in the actions that we actually commit. Therefore, in these verses, it is also stated as follows, as the verse says: if this body does good, it becomes a boat to liberation. If it does evil, it becomes an anchor of samsara. This body is the servant of good and evil deeds. If we use this body to carefully and thoughtfully practice virtuous actions, such as making lamp offerings, prostrating, and so on, then each of us, with this precious human body, will find it becomes a great vessel for liberation. Relying on it, we will surely leave behind the ocean of samsara filled with afflictions and suffering, reach liberation and nirvana's shore. Everyone can rely on this body to attain the fruition of liberation. If we use this body to commit various negative actions, such as killing, relying on the body, we will never be able to escape the vast, endless ocean of samsara. In ancient times, there was something called an anchor. That kind of anchor, I remember reading about it in the biography of Guru Padmasambhava, when King Enzabde was majestically traveling on the ocean. They travel by large sails, which are moved by the gentle wind for transportation across the water. During the journey, if they needed to spend the night or stop in the sea, There were 4 extremely large and heavy anchors, each made of solid iron and lead. On each side of the big ship, if these massive iron anchors were dropped into the sea, the ship would remain completely still. No matter how long they needed to remain, they could always rely on these sturdy anchors to keep the ship in place, relying on our body. If you don't want to be liberated, you will start to create karma in this life. If you spend your life continually making negative karma, then for countless eons, you may never be able to attain liberation from samsara and the lower realms. Therefore, we must analyze the pros and cons related to this body. We must check this. This body is like a servant in a household. The servant meticulously cleans the entire house thoroughly and keeps everything in good order. In this way, perhaps the servant does have his own abilities. If the house is a complete mess, that too is a reflection of the servant's abilities. In the same way, each of us on the surface seems to have eyes and a nose, and we all seem the same. But of course, it is our own mind that plays the dominant role. The body is also a kind of physical condition or circumstance. What we become in the future depends on each person's own body, which carefully plans out and arranges every necessary detail and step for you throughout this entire process, making sure that everything is organized and handled smoothly on your behalf. As the master of the body, the mind must guard it with right awareness and mindfulness. What exactly is my body doing? There should always be this kind of supervision in place at all times, as it is essential for ensuring that everything is done properly and according to the required standards. Next, from the power of merit accumulated in past lives, we have obtained a human body with the 18 freedoms. If we do not seek the supreme essence of the sublime Dharma, but instead pursue the clothing, food, shelter, and worldly concerns of this life, then you will ultimately waste your life, meaninglessly and in vain. At the time of death, you will inevitably grasp your chest tightly with deep regret, but by then it will already be far too late for any remorse. Just imagine for a moment how truly heartbreaking and deeply distressing that would be, feeling such overwhelming sadness and emotional pain that it becomes difficult to bear. In this passage, everyone should clearly understand it's due to your good deeds before that everyone in this life has a precious human body with freedoms and advantages. But the most crucial thing now is that we must make use of this body to cherish this body and aspire to virtuous Dharma. We should cherish this body and use it to cultivate virtues. This is what is stated in the Bodhikaravatara. Cherish your body and use it for virtue. We should treasure this opportunity in this body, using it exclusively to practice virtuous Dharma. Apart from practicing virtuous Dharma, whether engaging in neutral activities or even worse, committing negative deeds, we must exercise restraint. If you do not do so, it is indeed extremely frightening. On the surface, our body is also made up of flesh and bones. It should be treated as if it were an enemy. But by relying on it, we can indeed accumulate a great deal of merit. Though we see the body as an enemy, we should still protect it. Therefore, our body also plays a very important role. If one who upholds precepts lives long, they can create great merit. If a person who maintains discipline lives for a long time, they will also accumulate great merit. For those with good deeds here, indeed, even if they stay for one day, brings great merit. For those who commit negative actions, it would be better if they left this world earlier, since they create negative karma every day. If they don't even recite Avalokiteshvara's mantra once a day, then it would be better for them to be reborn as animals sooner, because perhaps they wouldn't commit as much terrible negative karma as humans. So if we don't properly practice virtuous deeds and spend all our days just eating, drinking, and having fun, people become frightening and foolish. Sometimes when we look at the people around us nowadays, all they do is eat, drink, enjoy, chase after money. Apart from these meaningless pursuits, there really isn't any true purpose. Frankly, if we so-called practitioners end up like this as well, then honestly, it's truly, truly, truly quite pitiful. When the time comes to die, If you are a Buddhist and you understand the cycle of birth and death, but you have never ever done good deeds in your life, if you waste your precious life like this, you will definitely regret it. Just think about how truly terrifying that is. Everyone should reflect on this. Of course, there are a few people who simply don't understand the concept of past and future lives at all, and they might not truly feel any pain because they come to the end of their life just like a yak does. When a yak dies, it only experiences the pain of that moment. It doesn't have any thoughts about the future or feelings of regret because it's simply too dull-witted. We see this, for example, if someone applies some medicine to a yak, the animal doesn't feel any sense of gratitude or appreciation. It simply remains completely indifferent. And if someone, for any reason, starts to cut off its head, then it probably doesn't actually feel any real sense of regret or remorse either. It just feels a sense of pain. People in our world today are indeed like this. They feel absolutely no regret whatsoever for the karma of their past lives, nor do they experience any sense of caution or concern about the fears and uncertainties of future lives. So nowadays, humanity, when you look at it sometimes, it seems that it is not actually as intelligent as we tend to claim ourselves to be. Scientists and writers, they themselves genuinely believe without a doubt that they are in fact exceptionally intelligent in society. But people or individuals who don't even know if they have a tomorrow in their lives, then if today he thinks he's very smart, does that mean people will all call him really intelligent? Because he is unwilling to deal with anything that happens after tomorrow, and he doesn't understand there's life beyond tomorrow. So I think that sometimes in certain situations we really have no choice but to care about this world. We need to thoughtfully and deeply reflect inwardly, and also carefully and attentively observe the world outside around us. The Bodhisattva Karyavatara also says this: having obtained this leisure, if I do not practice virtue, there is no greater self-deception than this, nor any greater foolishness. Now that we have obtained such a precious human life, if we do not actively and consistently practice virtuous and wholesome deeds, then truly there is no greater deception or self-delusion than this. If others cheat me out of my money or deceive me in some matters, that's natural. Because he has nothing to do with me, he may not be very good to me, but if I deceive myself when I am the one I trust the most, and yet somehow in the end I still manage to deceive myself, then in this world, what remedy is there? What could be more foolish than that? Nowadays, many people are deceiving themselves, karma from previous lives. And on the other hand, it is inextricably and closely related to the education and the environment in which we grow up, as well as the circumstances around us. But humanity has already, in fact, reached such a state of ignorance that we have no choice but to reflect deeply on ourselves. Therefore, for those present here, especially for those who indeed have faith in Buddhism, I think you should give rise to a sense of joy. Longchenpa, in The Great Perfection Resting in the Nature of Mind, after the section on the rarity of human life, he specifically talks about using a joyful and rejoicing mind to reflect on this human existence. Do we have this kind of feeling? Look around, you amid this vast sea of people, tens of thousands all around. Among so many people, almost none know about future lives. I am very fortunate. I know to make some preparations for the next life. I can't claim my practice is good. I do have a sense of fear when it comes to committing negative karma. I don't dare to take life lightly or casually. If I were to kill, I would be extremely afraid as well. For example, if a yak is about to fall into a pit of fire, those who know what's happening nearby might say, this yak is foolish. Look, the burning iron is clearly touching its body. How painful that must be. We can't even bear to watch. It's shocking and terrifying. Similarly, when we see the people around us, those in our immediate environment, committing negative karma, it is truly just as terrifying. Even though our own practice may be poor, it is still extremely fortunate that we understand this principle. Therefore, we must recognize that relying on this human life to transcend all of samsara or suffering is truly, really extremely, extremely important. This is also stated below. It can be seen that, in fact, this life is the fundamental and pivotal step in the journey of existence to determine eternal good or eternal evil. This point, this present life, is extremely crucial. It's just like when we say that a child's stage is critical. He is in college. Can he get into some unit? Right now is the most important time for them, because this is their time to study. Once it's over, the opportunity is gone. Human life is just like this. Our everlasting happiness or everlasting suffering truly comes down to these few short decades, ultimately. If we truly waste these decades in our lives, as we know it, then there will be no second chance. It's like if you let your youth slip by, will you still have the opportunity to study? No, you won't. In the same way, we should take a moment to reflect deeply on this. If in this life we do not attain the firm ground of Buddhahood, it will be very difficult, truly, in our future lives, for any of us to once again attain such a rare and precious human rebirth. With leisure and opportunity, once we are reborn into the lower realms, there will be no light of the true Dharma at all, and we will be completely ignorant about what to accept and what to reject. The only consequence will be to fall further and further, plunging into the boundless lower realms. Therefore, starting from now, we must make every possible effort. In this regard, we truly must. As for the words themselves, I honestly don't think I can actually explain it to each and every one of you in a way that's really any easier to understand. But in terms of the content, I wonder if fellow practitioners have, perhaps, often truly and genuinely taken the time to carefully and meaningfully reflect on these matters. If this lifetime passes by, perhaps we will be reborn in the lower realms. Once in the lower realms, it's hard to return. If we really want to be reborn as a human or in a fortunate realm, will we even have that opportunity? Such an opportunity is certainly not something easily attained as one might expect. To truly gain a human body after falling into the lower realms is certainly not an easy matter. During visualization, we must uphold it with the three supreme methods: generating the motivation in the preparatory phase, practicing without attachment in the main phase, and dedicating the merit in the concluding phase. When considering difficulty of obtaining a human body, as we have already discussed, every practice is in fact just as previously described. Indeed, when generating motivation, you should generate bodhicitta for all beings everywhere. Then, when you are visualizing, you don't necessarily have to close your eyes to do so. You can read the text while visualizing, reading it over and over again. By going through such passages repeatedly, a firm conviction arises in your mind. Some people, perhaps while I am teaching, it's really hard to get a human body, but after the teaching, that fleeting feeling quietly disappears in an instant, like a sudden flash of lightning in the deep darkness. It's just like the analogy given by Khenpo Gagchung. When iron is burning in the fire, it glows bright red. But as soon as you take it out, it immediately turns black again. Similarly, some people, while they are visualizing, think how hard it is to get a human body and may feel moved. But once it's over, when they return to society or go outside, feel nothing. We haven't practiced consistently for long. If you keep practicing and reflecting for a long time, then eventually you will naturally feel in your heart that a human life is truly hard to obtain. In this world, if you don't properly cultivate virtuous actions, then aside from that, everything else, whether it's fame, status, or all sorts of attractive external things, none of them are truly reliable at all. Honestly, you just really can't depend on any of them. Just as some of the truly great masters often wisely said to us in the past, for example, if a friend you deeply trust someone you truly consider a close friend deceives you one day, from that moment on, you feel very disappointed and hopeless. You think, this person has betrayed me. I used to trust him so much. You develop a strong sense of aversion toward him in your heart. In the very same way, when it comes to considering the whole world as a whole, if you have no interest in anything whatsoever except genuinely cherishing human life and sincerely practicing the Dharma, it means that a deep and genuine sense of renunciation has truly and unmistakably arisen in your heart. 4 types of renunciation. First, note human life's rarity. You see, when you truly realize just how rare human life really is, it feels as if you have no interest in anything else. You genuinely develop a long-lasting sense of renunciation, always wondering when you will attain liberation. Apart from liberation, truly nothing else seems meaningful. I remember, if I recall correctly, quoting it before in preliminaries, Milarepa, in one of his profound songs of realization, once said the following words. In the quiet, remote, deserted mountain valleys and hidden caves, he always maintained, with unwavering resolve, a sense of renunciation and detachment from the world. The Guru is the Buddha of the 3 times, and he had unwavering, strong faith that never left him. I really like this verse because it resonates with me and expresses feelings that I sometimes find hard to put into words. At that time, Milarepa was in a cave where there was no one else around. He constantly, not just for a day or two, he constantly, in his heart, felt no interest in all the fame and status of the world. He had no interest in any of these things and always maintained a sense of renunciation. Like the analogy I mentioned, nothing and no one is truly reliable. In contemporary times, as we see today, some romantic relationships between men and women in various parts of the world, when they break up, honestly, what do you even call that? Is it a breakup or something like that? After it's over, those people, they gradually begin to lose all interest in everything around them, in all the things that once truly mattered to them, including food, clothing, and anything else. They simply have absolutely no genuine interest whatsoever in any of it at all. They feel that nothing in the whole world has any meaning anymore. If, through spiritual practice, we can develop this kind of sense of renunciation toward the world, it shows that you have gained some insight into the preciousness of human life. Then, the Master is truly no different from the Buddhas of the 3 times. You need to have this confidence. It's not about feeling especially happy when you see the Guru today, and the Guru thinking maybe it's because of past life connections he treats me so well. Disciple finds Guru nice. But then, after a few days abandoning the Guru and slandering the Guru, that's not how it should be. You must always maintain unwavering and strong faith in the Guru, never letting it diminish. These are the 2 most crucial points in spiritual practice. This teaching is cited in the preliminary practices. It seems to be, as far as I can tell, in the section on contemplating impermanence, we should apply these principles using the 3 supreme methods. We must repeatedly contemplate and deeply meditate on these important teachings, reflecting on their meaning, and then put them into practice in our daily lives. After engaging in such practical cultivation, what is the standard for developing firm conviction in the rarity of a precious human life in our mind stream? What kind of threshold should arise in our continuum regarding the rarity of human rebirth? Is it really true that we can never ever sleep in, not even for just a single hour, not even once? The standard for realizing the rarity of human life is actually quite high. One should be like Geshe Chekawa. Geshe Chekawa never slept at all. Isn't Patrul Rinpoche's expectation of us a bit high? No one can actually, in reality, really do that, as far as we know. Perhaps he is setting different levels of expectations. The first and highest standard is Geshe Chekawa. If you can't reach that level, you should still be very diligent and not slack off at all times. You should be like Geshe Chekawa. Whenever people saw Geshe Chekawa, he was always awake through the night, wholeheartedly practicing virtuous Dharma. The great spiritual teacher Drom Tempa expressed his concern, "Disciple, you still need to relieve your physical fatigue for your own well-being." Maybe the master just really enjoyed sleeping in, taking his time to wake up and savoring those extra moments of rest in the morning, just kidding. Otherwise, it could quite seriously result in an imbalance of the 4 elements, after all, since he never slept at all. The master was very deeply concerned, genuinely afraid that his own body in its current state wouldn't be able to withstand it. Geshe Chekawa replied, offering his teacher a teaching, it's necessary to let the body recover. But whenever I think about how rare and precious this human life is, I feel there is no time to rest. Master, you may have time to rest, but as for me, I don't have any time to rest at all. The master said, pausing briefly, "Oh, then I'll go to sleep," just joking, as he often did, with a gentle, warm smile. But we really shouldn't joke about this, otherwise the profound and important meaning simply can't be fully explained. Indeed, Geshe Chekawa never slept throughout his entire life. He recited the Akshobhya Buddha mantra 900 million times. The Akshobhya Buddha mantra is Om Benza Maharokana Hamfat. That's the heart mantra of Akshobhya Buddha. Om Jamza Maharokana Hampade. This heart mantra has incredibly great merit. Generally, it can dispel all obstacles caused by gods, nagas, and yakshas. It can cure all kinds of illnesses and epidemics in the world. Moreover, reciting it even once can eliminate the 5 heinous crimes and all other karmic obstacles. It can also accomplish all pacifying, increasing, magnetizing, and subjugating activities. Therefore, the heart mantra of Akshobhya Buddha truly possesses immense merit. Starting today, everyone should stay awake and continuously recite the heart mantra of Akshobhya Buddha. If someone can recite it 900 million times in their lifetime, that is without a doubt truly, truly admirable in every sense. In the past, our revered guru also mentioned, he once said that in his own lifetime, he had already recited the heart mantra over the course of 900 million times. There are various heart mantras for different yidams. Some are simply just a single syllable, as His Holiness said, and some, on the other hand, have more than a dozen individual syllables in total. But even reciting a single syllable mantra 100 million times is extremely difficult. In the past, we would recite the syllable ah and made aspirations, but I didn't recite it many times. Recently, I have been reciting a certain mantra continuously, but reciting it 100,000 times a day is really exhausting. Sometimes there are just so many things going on, one thing after another. The only way is to get up a bit earlier and go to bed a bit later. Actually, there is some time if you do that. Otherwise, during the day, for someone like me who has a lot of trivial matters to handle, hard to practice. I see that many Dharma friends are the same. If you truly want to practice well, you can't be too lazy because sleeping is really frightening. Before you know it, an hour just slips by quietly. You don't even realize it yourself, as you may not even be aware. As it explicitly states in the Bodhicharyavatara, this raft is quite hard to acquire. Therefore, foolish people should not be attached to sleep. Our current human body is capable of crossing the vast ocean of birth and death. Such a vessel is extremely rare. If you are foolish, don't spend every day just sleeping. Otherwise, as Sakya Pandita once said, half of our lives, meaning a significant portion of our precious time, would be wasted. People's lives are short, and half of it is lost. At night, sleep is like death. Our lives are already very brief to begin with, but half of it is spent entirely in a state of sleep. This is truly a pity. We must make sure to practice virtuous deeds. Be like Geshe Chikawa, who never slept at all. This might be somewhat difficult for us. He never slept at all throughout his entire life. But before such a genuinely firm conviction arises in our own minds, as Geshe Kanawa just said, well, when you reflect on how rare human life is time to sleep, truly, if this truly meaningful idea is deeply rooted in our hearts and firmly established, it becomes difficult to fall asleep. It really is like that. But if we don't feel anything at all, then we just drift off and sleep peacefully. The less well someone contemplates the rarity of human life, the longer they tend to sleep. You can see this for yourself. If I have something absolutely very important to do that I really cannot postpone or delay early tomorrow morning, you definitely won't be able to sleep, even if you want to. I'm going to Beijing tomorrow. I'm going to Hong Kong tomorrow. I'm going to the United States tomorrow. And this matter is very important to me, then no matter what, you can't fall asleep. So in the world today, the main reason is that our own practice is especially lacking. As a result, many people are especially prone to oversleeping, and this is something that really needs to be addressed as much as possible. Of course, not sleeping at all probably isn't feasible or revered. Teacher also mentioned this in the past. He told us to rest well, and to rest when it's time to rest, just as he always advised. Back then, when we were younger, we really didn't quite understand this. I thought, nighttime is a very precious time. It would be best if I could just sleep, even a little bit. Why would the teacher sometimes say things like this? I used to wonder about that. But when a person reaches a certain age, we really feel we must sleep during the necessary hours. Otherwise, it truly doesn't work as intended, but at the same time, we really shouldn't go overboard with it either, of course. Just like people in the world nowadays, living every day in a kind of daze and confusion, that's not acceptable. We must practice diligently. Next is the concluding verse for this section. Please listen carefully and take a moment to enjoy. Though one may have leisure or free time, in reality, one still often lacks genuine Dharma. Though one enters the Buddhist path, one nevertheless sometimes engages in or indulges in non-dharmic activities. May blessings be bestowed so I and all sentient beings may realize the true value of this precious human life. We have already obtained a human body with leisure and opportunity. Our actual Dharma practice is especially lacking. Truly integrating the Dharma into our hearts and continuously putting it into practice, this is something we are greatly deficient in. Although many people have, for a very long time, already entered the Buddhist path and begun their journey, and some have even donned monastic robes and taken refuge vows for themselves in their own spiritual journey along their path, we spend our days indulging in non-dharmic pursuits, 8 worldly concerns, unwholesome actions driven by greed, anger, and ignorance. Patrul Rinpoche says, for sentient beings as profoundly ignorant as myself and those like me, may such a realization arise within our mental continuum, that we truly recognize the rarity and value of this precious human life with leisure and opportunity. We pray for the blessings of all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, lineage masters, and Dharma protectors to support us. This is something we should recite often. We frequently recite it in this way. In fact, making prayers is very important. If you look at the end of the preliminary practice memorandum, there is a section dedicated to prayers and aspirations, these 4 kinds of contemplations. This is very important. If you don't do this, just thinking about it is not enough. When you practice, you must put your palms together and recite what needs to be recited yourself. With eyes closed before the Guru and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, please let this realization of the precious human rebirth arise in my mental continuum. You should have a very strong aspiration and an incredible faith in your Guru. You should have a powerful sense of longing, yearning. If you begin your practice in such a state, then your practice will be successful, truly successful. Otherwise, if you just think about it in a scattered and distracted state, even for just a moment, without really focusing with an indifferent attitude, it is impossible for genuine realization to arise. Therefore, I sincerely hope that all the Dharma friends present here can truly help you realize how rare and precious human life is. This matters more than anything. If you have this foundation, then building everything else on top layer by layer will not be difficult at all, as you can probably imagine. But if you do not lay this foundation well, no matter what you do on the outside, no matter how magnificent or beautifully decorated the structure above is, at a certain point, it will all collapse. So establishing this solid foundation is absolutely and truly crucial for everyone. We'll stop here.
Om